Hello, everyone, and welcome to this next episode of the Secrets of the 1% Club, meeting some of the most interesting people who represent the idea of that 1% Club. The people who, have found or they've actually lived this concept of going after their calling, listening to their heart, trying to make a difference in the world. And they are explorers, they are people who stand out, they're different from the crowd, they choose a path which is less traveled, and one of them is Dr. Malhar. And I always wanted to have him on the show. And when I was writing this book, one of the persons who was there who guided me in this journey of being a part of this 1% club, as I call it, is Dr. Malhar. He's been my personal coach on my cycling journey. I was cycling. I started cycling after the age of 50, but I became a cyclist after I met Dr. Malhar. He actually made me to invest in a best cycle. He said, you invest in mobile phones, you invest in a cycle. I actually showed him the picture of my cycle. I remember I was at this place and I was showing him pictures. Should I buy this? Should I buy this? And then he said, just go for the best. Yeah, put the best. And then he taught me one more thing. Put on the best gear when you go out cycling. So I've got so many gears. I've got, 6 to 7 helmets, and, I've got all that because I feel like cycling when I'm wearing that best gear. So I became a cyclist when I met Dr. Malhar. And he does that with hundreds and thousands of people. There's an athletes group that he drives. He drives a lot of people, and a lot of people in the age at 45, 50, 60, 70, 80 find their inspiration after connecting with Dr. Malhar. He's a very unique person, and I wanted to have him on this. There's a lot that we're going to learn from Dr. Malhar in this session. And the first question that I have for you, Dr. Malhar, how did this journey start of inspiring so many hundreds and thousands of people as you do today? Where did it start? What was the turning point for you? How did this journey begin?
Hi, Sanjay. Thanks for having me here. I still can't believe I'm going to be speaking about passion, but it's really ironic. It's ironical. But to tell you the truth, I come from a long line of doctors, probably third generation now. So that incumbent pressure was there, and I did do it. After all, sometimes join the family hospital, things like that. But at 28, my only claim to fame was how lost I was in life. I was magically lost. In fact, telling people how lost was my passion. That I have no clue what I'm doing, and people should tell me that's an entitled statement. Just because you come from certain amount of wealth and money, and you don't have to pay EMIs, that you can afford to talk like this. And they were not wrong. Looking back, the only thing that I kept saying, there's got to be more to this. Got to be more to this, and I kept every person I would find, I would have the same rhetoric. But after a point, I think I even went down to an uncle of mine who's a psychiatrist, and he said, what you're searching for is not wrong. You just want to contribute in this world. You feel you've been given a lot. Somewhere you want to give it back. And that's a little conscience issue that you have developed, I think. And he said it's not a bad thing. Secondly, I did a course where the guy said, can you stop seeking inspiration now and become a source of it? So these are kind of very, very, looking back, these were very strong, pivotal, guiding statements that I clung to, like a guy lost at sea would clung to a life raft. I actually clung to those statements, and then the third, of course, one of the classic ones, when I finally went down to New Zealand to do my master's. And the reason I got the conviction to go was when I started running, I started cycling. I was always been a bit of a sports nut because those skills came easy to me. And I ran, swam, cycled a lot. And somewhere I realized let's make a career out of it. So I just threw caution to the wind and went to New Zealand. And my guides there convinced me that, while sport is a great indulgence and a great hobby, medicine is a greater honor. And one of those statements, again, another fancy statement. And one of the best statements ever said to me was, I was not well one of those days. I think my daughter had fallen ill in India. I had 2 children at that point when I went there. I left them and went. I wrote a mail to my guide saying, Chief, my daughter's not well, and I'm running some fool's errand here. I don't know what I'm on here. What am I doing here? Like studying some new field when I have a full-fledged life back home. I think I need to just quit and go home because I'm not ready for this. And he wrote back a mail, which in a way, looking back, kind of changed my life. He just wrote a mail saying, son, you were born ready. Again, powerful statement. Now, if I can just accumulate all those powerful statements, they will kind of drown out all the negative ones I heard, because you hear negative ones all the time. You keep feeding them. But in a way, these powerful ones had sufficient gravitational pull in them to convince me that I had the power to make the shift. And that shift occurred when I was, say, about 30, 32. When I came back to India, that shift had occurred. I was no longer that, petulant child looking for someone like, I want my toy. That passion had developed a vision. It had developed some sort of direction, which was I was going to use the power of, again, pivotal statements combined with exercise. So that beautiful, merger, and all my education had led up to it anyway. I knew the sentences, I knew everything, I knew the triggers. More importantly, I'd gone and studied the closure of it. So that beautiful merger and that tipping point came where let's do this. Let's do this. And since then, it's just been, I wouldn't say it's been easy, but it's at least that search has ended. You know.
You have worked with Dr. Malhar with a lot of people in the age group of 40 and above. A lot of people in that profile. And here again, these are people who reach at this stage 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. You start feeling that, at this point of time, the health issues start kicking in, which is what you deal with. But there's something beyond health that starts kicking in, which is what you move into. So when you are working with people, when you're working and you're getting them, and I've seen the shifts I've seen stories and stories, because I'm part of some of your athletes groups, stories and stories of change. People who started because of something that you said, and then they've gone on to, literally they find themselves. I wouldn't say purpose calling those big words, but they found themselves in this thing. So what did you find that was missing in these people, in the people after 40, 50, and what did happen for them to find themselves?
Yeah, the word that you're looking for is existential authenticity. That's the word. People are tired of posturing, pretending, and living for either their parental goals or something that their children will need, or spousal regret, like, my spouse will get upset. So there's this chronic cycle where in Indians we keep living for somebody else, and it never ends. And it may not even be real. That's the tragedy of it. Like, it's always, you have created these perceptions most of the time. So I find that a lot of people need external validation. Like, if I just give you a pat on the back, yes, Sanjay, go buy that 50,000 rupee cycle. It was never about you having to justify it to anyone. It was just about somebody telling you it's okay. It's okay to do it. It's okay to go run a 10K. You don't have to be first. Someone has to tell us, that it's okay. It's okay. Just go do this. And of course, give you a little bit of a plan, because we are very plan driven people. Indians like to have a plan, because again, the plan is part of the justification. The day we stop justifying is the day we start living. But we never stop. It's cyclical.
Beautiful.
Cyclical. It's cyclical.
Repeat that again. That sentence. And expand on that.
The day we stop justifying is the day we start living. But the problem is we are master justifier, PhD in justification. Because whatever we think is relevant for that decade in life, we start justifying it. We have built these stories around it, and we keep narrating them wherever we go. And I see it every day. So I have a principle in my practice. It's called wait for it. The guy will go on and on and on and on justifying, and I wait for it and I wait for it. And then the window of opportunity comes where I just subtly tell him, all that's cool, yeah, let's go buy the bike. All that's cool. Let's just get some new running shoes. Because a person doesn't need a plan. He just needs a pat on the back. He doesn't need a plan. We don't need as many plans as we think we need, because again, like I told you, after 45, there is no roadmap. Up to 45, it was maybe some phase was growing up, adulthood, education, marriage, children, job, ascension, CXO, whatever those great ladders that were built and given to us. After 45 is what? It's only graceful aging. There's no other so-called goal. Either you'll meet your goal or you won't financially. So it's going to be black or white after. So then what? There's no plan for the gray, which is what I find most fascinating. What do you cling to when plan A has not worked out? What's plan B? So what do you do today when plan A no longer exists? Is a fascinating area of research. And that's something that I find particularly fascinating because that's the one that will help you gracefully age, not trouble your children, not be a nuisance value to the spouse, not be financially a wreck. So letting go certain hypothetical perceptual goals up to 45 at 45, moving on to completely different, non-linear, non-goal driven, non-obsessive goals. And doesn't have to mean you go sit under a tree and get spiritual about it. But I think one interesting story I'll tell you was two stories I can tell you where I've seen small loops getting closed. Like there was a guy there was a group I worked with, a particular community who was not known for fitness. And they brought me in to kind of inspire the whole community to say, yeah, let's do something in fitness. And one of those guys there, I think he was 40, 42. He was the owner of a construction company. His dad had died early. He and his brother had brought the family out of debt, and they bought the BMW and all of it. But there was something missing. I could see that. And a person like me can identify that. So I waited for the opportunity, and one day I just said, you're really nice. Again, same thing that was done to me. I said, you look like a runner. And he started running. And typically I used to form these WhatsApp groups of that group. And he ran a 10K. And for whatever typical style that I do, I just put a thumbs up, on the group. The guy 6 months later went on to do an Ironman. And he revamped everything. He revamped his company, revamped his life, revamped priorities, children, marriage. He just changed his entire arithmetic of life. From then on, he's established one of the largest NGOs also. But he just came back to the group as a celebrity 7 months later. He had his own identity. And they just asked him, ये कहाँ से हुआ यार? तू क्या था, क्या बन गया? And he just said, वो क्या है? वो पहले बार में 10K भाग के आया ना, मल्हार सर ने थम्स अप डाला था ग्रुप पे. मेरे को जिंदगी में किसी ने थम्स अप नहीं किया. That was his pivot. It was his need. And it's very easy to identify someone's need. So that's all we do for a living. We find what somebody really needs. And I can get behind the question in 2 minutes. Like when you told me what all fitness you do, and you told me so many things you do in that hotel lobby. And I just said, Sanjay, what's your identity? What's going to bring you back from a hospital admission? Is it going to be that 15 minutes of cardio in the gym? You said, no, I don't have an identity. I said, then let's talk about that. And after 50, the identities get more blurred because your work identity is lesser. Suddenly you're sitting wherever, or you're not. But that identity is very gray. So identity wise, I find everyone clinging to, identity. So we need to help new identities develop all the time. So that's primarily what we do. We help people find new ones.
Dr. Malhar, there's also one more thing that I know about you. And this is something which is, again, very inspiring. In your own life journey, while everything was going fine and you were doing absolutely great, a solid, fit personality like you, who can run, swim, and do kind of crazy physical stuff, suddenly your life turned with one incident that you went through that put you in the hospital. And, it was like, what's going to happen? And coming out of that as a fitness person who was constantly wanting to run, to swim, to do all these physical stuff, to be on the bed and not be able to do things. What was that journey, and what did you learn from that journey of your life, if you can share with us?
Yeah, I think it was a couple of years ago. But then I've had a history with physical issues. I mean, I've had more than 20 plus fractures and a lot more other stuff. It's been endless, that saga. I call it the saga. So it's been a bit of a saga, the physical adversity part of it. But I think when you have children and you have dependents, I don't see there being another option. You have to be You have to be chronically optimistic that you'll recover. But the end of the day, it was very surprising what happened. My body suddenly just declared war on me. I was driving and I could have died there. So for some lucky reason, I survived. And yeah, I was paralyzed for a while, on bed for a while. Luckily, I got probably on the best surgeons this side of the Suez Canal. He did all of the carpentry, as I call it, put me back, took about 6 months of recovery, physio, getting back on 2 feet. A year later, back to swimming again, back to cycling, a little bit of running, gymming. It's all back. But again, like I said, what brings me back is the identity. The identities that have been developed over the years, they have gravitational force, they have atomic weight. That atomic weight has huge force. Like my academics will tell me every day when I get up, let's do something with this knowledge. Yeah, what are you doing sitting at home watching Netflix? Same thing happens with the physical potential. It's been developed to a point where it has so much potential energy that it has to be deployed. So the beauty of the more, and they're just hobbies, they are not deployed for commercial purposes. They are just something that you have harbored, nurtured, and built, and it's reserve in you. It just constantly it'll nag you. Come on, dude, let's do something. Let's do something. If nothing else, you'll contribute. If nothing else, you'll write a blog. Okay. But you can't just sit, because that conscience attack that all of us have when we sit on information, when we sit on potential, is what I find the most fatiguing, because we can drift for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. After that, the mind will nag you to hell and back. Okay, let's do something. And we have had so many conversations where you have told me, now what should I do next? And I'm the one who kind of told you that, it's time to look beyond non-commercial, non-sustainable. That same rhetoric can't continue. We at 50 plus, I find so many IT guys who have messed up their health because they want to suddenly have a unicorn. Because there are 25-year-olds and 35-year-olds raising millions of dollars and creating unicorns out of ideas. The 50-year-old guys also want to jump into that. And it creates such a mess of their health. Whether they succeed or not, I mean, that's fine. That's the luck part of it. But that bandwidth may not be there suddenly. So I think responsibly getting triggered is very critical. This word passion is a huge romantic undertone to it. But when you get triggered and you get hooked, similarly for you, I remember when you started cycling, I told you, Sanjay, responsibly. The ability of the body to recover at certain ages is not so easy. So I've had to recapitulate some of those adventures that I used to throw myself in blatantly, because now I realize there's so much more at stake, so much more that I can contribute. Like I said, Roger Bannister said it, right? The neurologist. Being an athlete is a greater pleasure, but being in the medical profession is the greater honor. So I think somewhere that rationality has to settle down. That if you are built for something more and that purpose is there, the indulgence can reduce. And that's all. Like I said, these are all small statements, because I'm an avid reader. The reading keeps hitting me in different ways. Again, the knowledge and wisdom. It's a lovely circuit to be stuck in. Problem is when we toss our action into it and then go make a mess somewhere. So that creates desperation, frustration. So it's good to stay with the knowledge, not change your life trajectory just because something sounded good. That's far more difficult, I find, than anything else. And even for me today, because again, it's not about money. When that word contribution and inspiration comes, any platform we get, we are so desperate to engage and somehow bring our wealth of experience into it. But it's not necessary. It's someone else's circus, someone else's monkeys. And I'll tell you something interesting. I mean, parting note, my cousin told me the other day that, that behind every unicorn, there's usually one Elon Musk, or there's one, for better word, there's a Roger Federer. There's the one guy, that visionary guy, the legendary guy, the guy who's willing to risk it all. But around him, there are guys who build the rockets and who build the cars. They are not less passionate about the cause. They're just not that guy. It doesn't make them any lesser. The problem is a lot of us think we are that guy, or we'll waste a lifetime trying to be that guy. That's, I find, the slightly unnecessary bit. I think if you realize that there is an entire 11, 12 team who's very passionate, very competent, very growth driven, and it's a wonderful life. You just don't get to be that. You don't get to be Tendulkar, but you can be a Dhoni. You can be a Sehwag. You can be whoever you're meant to be. But the problem is when you have perceptually decided, yeah, I'm going to spend this entire life to be Sachin or nobody else. There's only one Sachin. So I think, that just recalibrating the goals when adversity hits you is very useful. Otherwise you become a victim. That
on parting thoughts, though you said, I want to ask you one question now that you are on this call. Now, if you look at the 1% in terms of the health or aging,
yeah,
I apply the same idea that, those 1% club, the people who really age gracefully. You being in this field of the health and, wellness of people and dealing with so many people, thousands of them, what is your advice to people in the corporate world, people out there? How do you find that magic of aging gracefully? What is it that there to that?
The primary thing starts with finding a hobby. You have to find your athletic identity, as what we call it. You have to find your athlete identity. That is non-negotiable, and it cannot be a team sport. I play cricket on Sundays. No. Athlete identity is something that, again, when adversity will hit you, when the bike will fall and you'll break your leg and you'll have to make a comeback, cricket's not going to pull you back. It has to be something which is solo. So it could be as something simple as swimming, cycling, running, gymming. It's typically a cardio sport, but it could also be yoga. You need one hobby. That can't be it all. Like Virat Kohli is a cricketer, but he also gyms thrice a week, does yoga. So you need to ensure that you do the strength, stamina, and flexibility bit. But I think for a lot of corporate people, it'll be good to spend time with people who have been you 25 years ago and talk to some of those octogenarians. They are a wealth of information, and they will give you those one or two pivotal fulcrum statements, one or two, because their analysis of what you are asking is so incisive. It's like a surgeon, because they've been you and then 30 years. So they can just look in 1 second and they know what you're asking. The problem is we don't listen. We think we're smarter. It's not necessary. There's so much wisdom on offer there. Frankly, to me, my favorite people are the 60 to 70 to 80-year-olds, because it's not that I want inspiration. I'm always seeking clarity. So when you go and meet them and they have been you don't have to reinvent the wheel, especially those who have aged gracefully. Some of them have settled for 7% return in life and they're happy with those investments. They tell you, yeah, at your age, you can go seek 25%, but we are happy with 7. That transition, when do they flick that switch and say, you know what, I'm cool with this? It's not easy. And the answer comes from them. They will give you, again, one sentence, one guiding statement, and it becomes written in stone. And you correct 10 such statements, see what works for you. Sometimes it comes from a book. But to be honest with you, I think graceful aging needs work. More than the software which is here and the other running of the body, it's the hardware. I find the hardware taking a beating among a lot of our people. The hardware really takes a beating, because after the age of 25 till the age of, say, 55, there's no real hardware training being done. We sit in a lot of boardrooms and a lot of air-conditioned rooms, and our travels are by flight. So there's a lot of food damage that occurs. So, we need to quickly, the accelerated aging has started occurring a lot now. Like the 30, earlier 40 was the new 30s. Now it's become it's become reverse. So 30s have become the new 40s, and 40s have become the new 50s, and 50-year-olds are 70. So that compounding effect of the bad lifestyles are starting to add. So it will be very useful if people just, acknowledge that there is a need to reverse age, just a little.
Thank you, Dr. Malhar, and thank you for sharing so much information, so much of wisdom, as I would say, from your experience with all of us. And for those who want to, connect with Dr. Malhar. Freedom from Diabetes is an organization where Dr. Malhar is available. You can go to that, go to the website. And there's a program that he runs, which he runs, especially for people who are looking at dealing with the metabolic issues like the obesity or various other things that you're dealing with, health, aging gracefully, all those things. Dr. Malhar, you can find him on Freedom from Diabetes. You can go and attend the sessions. There's some sessions which happen out there, and then maybe join a program with him. The things that I pick up from you, Dr. Malhar, in this conversation, and I want to leave everyone with, I think there are a few things that we have all picked up. He said constantly this knowledge and wisdom, that cycle of knowledge and wisdom. You keep on getting knowledge, keep on getting wisdom, but you don't have to constantly just take it and start running towards something, with that. You need to pause, you need to just absorb and see what starts working with you. And those small nuggets, he said, in life you'll meet people who will give you those small things that can become pivots for you. There might be in his life he's shared so many of them. I think it makes a lot of sense. You meet certain people who will come to you, who will give you those pivots. You need to go and talk to people. Like you need to reach out to people. So again, an interesting conversation. Thank you, Dr. Malhar, as always, for inspiring and for sharing your thoughts with me and now with the audience at the Secrets of the 1% Club. Guys, you want to see more such videos, do subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much.